Hey guys, this is Frank Yecker, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
Hey, this is Rich Franklin.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris Lieben.
This is Diego Sanchez, Randy Couture,
Alistair Overeem.
Hi, this is Stephen Bonner.
This is Don Fry.
Hey, I'm Phil, Mr. Wonderful Davis.
TJ Dillashaw.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Welcome to Submission Radio. It's episode 168, Wednesday, 22nd of August. Dennis Schrader here with Kasper Ozolowski with another fun episode of Submission Radio coming to the people today, Cass. Another lineup of interesting people to talk to at this time where it's pretty quiet in the MMA world.
Yeah, that's right. We got James Vick taking on Justin Gaethje this weekend, but we're going to keep you warm in the interim. Actually, John Morgan is jumping on the program, and he's going to be previewing UFC Lincoln. He's going to be previewing that fight, talking about some of the things at Bellator 204. So that's going to be fun. Also, Israel Adesanya. You guys have been requesting him for a while now. People in the YouTube comment section, get Israel on, get Israel on. Well, we've got him on. He's going to be on this show for you guys, chatting to us. You guys are going to be listening to him. So I'm very excited to be chatting to Israel Adesanya. He's obviously got this massive fight against Derek Brunson at UFC 230 at the iconic Madison Square Garden. A bunch of fun guaranteed. Also, Al Iaquinta, the wild man himself, one of the realest dudes out there in the lightweight division. We call him the Iron Sheik of MMA. Something that we bonded with Al very early on when he was fighting here in Sydney. He's going to be on the program. Ariel Helwani saying that he wants to fight Tony Ferguson next. That's a fun fight. Who doesn't like Al versus Tony Ferguson? So we want to hear what he has to say about that. Apparently his body's healed at the moment, so we get an update from him. Also, Jack Swagger, known to WWE fans as Jack Swagger, but in the real world, he is Jake Hager. Obviously a big heavyweight, currently in Bellator, set to make his MMA debut. Will this be another case of CM Punk? Probably not, because he was actually a collegiate wrestler with some legitimate skills, but he's going to be doing big things, hopefully, so we're going to have him on the program, talk to him about this transition from pro wrestling to MMA. Obviously, you know, him and Brock Lesnar, did they ever wrestle each other, two collegiate wrestlers? Some of the stories from the WWE, the boys in the back and things like that, so it's going to be a fun show, man. It's a sexy one, some new faces. Jake Hager, never been on the program before, so I'm excited, man.
Yeah, anytime we get a new face on the program, it's always cool, and Jake's got a very, very interesting story. I know some MMA fans have kind of already started shitting on him, but he's had a pretty interesting run. He's had a very, very interesting journey, and he set, I think, the record at the University of Oklahoma 1 year for the amount of pins in amateur wrestling in a season, and I think that was 30.
Yeah.
He was wrestling at, I believe, 275 pounds, something crazy like that. So.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Very interesting to see what a guy like that can do in Bellator. He'll be talking to us all about that. Guys, before we jump into the program, just a quick reminder to follow us on Twitter at Submission Radio. Of course, Facebook, you give us a like, jump on there. We've got some stuff on Facebook as always. And Instagram is somewhere we like to jump on and have a bit of fun, put on some old school vintage photos, Cass, so a lot of stuff with that. Also, I'm wearing my Power Rangers t-shirt today.
Oh.
A lot of fun here. As you guys know, the show has gone to video. Do you have a fun t-shirt you'd like us to possibly wear on the program? Feel free to shoot us a message on any of the social media platforms or email us. I think it's info@submissionradio.com, Cass.
info@submissionradio.com. And just to let you guys know, if you request a t-shirt with the nipples cut out, we will consider it.
Yeah, we will consider it.
Maybe.
Assless chaps, no problem. And the show's waist down. Who's going to tell you that we're not wearing them right now? A different definition when it comes to sweet cheeks, when it comes to Submission Radio. But, Kat, speaking of sweet cheeks, we've got some sweet cheeks on the program today. A fun show. Again, guys, don't forget to comment down below. Give us an iTunes review. Follow us on social media and become a part of the conversation. We love chatting to you guys. And also check out the technique of the week this week. Tyson Pedro. I mean to say last week, we re-released the techniques of the week. The first one was the Tyson Pedro technique, a very, very interesting striking technique, Cass. And this week, I believe another Tyson Pedro technique. This one also very interesting. So you guys can check that out on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/submissionradioau. And the interesting thing is, if you do listen to this program on Stitcher, iTunes, or just audio-wise, hey, we're on video now. A lot of people still don't realize we're on video. They're like, really? That's what you guys look like? We thought you guys looked like Spock from Star Trek. Well, we do when we have a shower, but this is a dry program. So check us out. Give us a subscription on YouTube. You do get different content on YouTube than you do on your Stitchers or iTunes or TuneIn. So make sure you stay on top of both things. Now that that's out of the way, Cass, we have our first guest on the line, and he's a bit of a favorite here on the program. I believe you're about to introduce him.
All right, guys. Our next guest is man of the people and one of the realest dudes out there, currently ranked at number 9 in the UFC's rankings. He is the Iron Sheik of MMA, Long Island's own Raging Al Iaquinta. Welcome back to Submission Radio. How's it going, man? I hear you laughing. You liked that intro, didn't you?
Great intro. The Iron Sheik of MMA. Amazing. I love it. I make them humble, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, we usually peak during the intro, and then the interview goes downhill from there on out. But let's quickly talk about your life, because there's some good news in your life, Al. It looks like there's word on the street that you're healthier than ever. Is that right?
Yeah, man. I'm feeling good. It's been a long time. So I've been working through the injuries. I got beat up a little bit, obviously, my last fight. Had a few injuries from that, but I'm feeling good now. And I'm just looking for something in like November. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll definitely talk about that. But just quickly, what were the injuries, and when was sort of the moment that you realized, hey, man, I'm better than I was in years? And if you're 100% now, what were you operating at the last few years?
Oh man, you'd have to talk to Longo.
That bad, huh?
Yeah, I mean leading up to the last fight is when I really started feeling good, you know, and then so I had that knee surgery, and that took forever to really kind of feel good. And then in the last fight, I hurt my shoulder, and they offered me the fight, like, I don't know, a couple of weeks after I fought Khabib, and I was like, it came out of nowhere. I was like, wow, they didn't even really ask me if I was okay or whatever, but it was a great opportunity. So they kind of put a little pressure on me. I took the fight, and then I took the fight really without training and seeing where I was at. I started training, and I was like, yeah, this is not working out right. Plus, I live on Long Island. It's the summer. There's a lot of. I'm not to go to Lincoln, Nebraska in August, a Long Island there. You got to really make it worth it. You know. I mean, it's got to be worth it. I've had a great summer. I do the real estate thing, and I've been doing great with that. So stuck with that. Honestly, probably made almost, as much money as I would have to show against, the guy. So I'm just having fun with it,
Because it's interesting. People don't quite know. 1 second, it looks like Dana White's new favorite fighter. Next second, he's not in love with you any longer. What's your relationship like with the UFC right now and Dana White after you sort of didn't want to take that fight? Is it back to where it was before?
Or you were forced to withdraw from that fight?
No. I think, I don't know. Yeah, I gotta stop saying It's just, I keep saying, I said that like 20 times. Someone called me out on Twitter, like, you keep saying that. It's like in public speaking, they call it a fill pause. I just got to be comfortable with there being no sound. And instead of not saying anything, I go,
Bit of a Barack Obama approach to speaking.
He's the best, right? What a great public speaker that guy is.
I think about him before I do my interviews sometimes because I'm guilty of the same thing.
I haven't noticed it.
Well, I've been working hard. Before we interview you, I work extra hard. I look at myself in the mirror and I go, you can do this. Don't say you know, or if you know, or...
I was going to say, I think it's an Al Iaquinta-ism. Like, when you say you've got that Long Island accent, so it just sounds a lot cooler. So I don't think you should change. I think you should keep the you know?
Oh, now you're going to start doing it, huh?
Yep. It's already happening,
I don't know. We'll see. I think I got to get rid of it.
Let me ask you, Al. So well, you know that we know that there's going to be an Iaquinta fight coming up soon. You mentioned New York. Tell me, who are you looking at potentially fighting? Because according to Ariel Helwani, Tony Ferguson is possibly next. Is that true? And do you want him?
Yeah, I think that's a great one. You know, I think he's gonna have to fight again because Dustin is fighting Nate Diaz in New York. So those guys, if Nate wins, he's probably, and if Nate and Conor both win, they're gonna fight again. That's 100%. If Khabib wins, he might fight GSP. He might fight Dustin. He might fight Nate. So I mean, for Ferguson, he's got to get back in there. You know what I mean? He's got to fight again.
So is that the only thing that you like about it? The fact that he's just the guy that's available, or is there something else? What do you like about the matchup and him, I guess?
Well, I think he's just kind of like a weird guy. I don't know. I don't see doing something right because he's 10-0 in his last 10 fights or something. But he's chinny. Definitely gets dropped every fight. I think guys haven't been able to finish him, and I think I definitely can if I hurt him, which I think I would. I'd be able to put him away. But I think it's just a good fight. I think it's a good fight, and I just really don't like him. He's kind of like annoying. Pretty much that's it. I think I just don't like him. I don't like. It's a good fight. I think it's a fight I could win. You know, I think it's just a great fight for me, and I think he's dangerous with like chokes and stuff, but I don't know. I think Barbosa was beating him up, Donato was beating him up, and then he's kind of just so he's so out of his mind that he thinks he's good, so he's actually ends up being good. I don't know if it makes sense. Like, he really believes that he's that good, but he's really not. Well, he's so crazy that it like works in his. He's got like the cuckoo. He's like he's got a cuckoo gene in him, and the cuckoo gene can beat a lot of people, but I don't think it's beating me. You know.
Because you mentioned that you knows, but he likes to. He has a tweeting style that some people could find a little bit annoying from time to time, and he quickly responded. Sorry?
Basically, no one likes him, basically. You know? I don't think there's a lot. I said it again.
You've said it a few times, and I never wanted to say anything. I'm just sitting here enjoying it, man.
No, you gotta call me out on it. You gotta call me out, and I gotta stop this. This is gonna end today.
No, this is not the show for it. You were saying though, Tony Ferguson's tweeting. You were saying something.
Yeah, no one likes him. He's just a weird guy. So
I was gonna say, speaking of tweets, he quickly responded to the original tweet and said, "Trying too hard, kid. Dash like Motown Phenom. You both had your chance and fucked it up. You sell houses, I build and buy them. Take notes." What did you make of his response?
He's the one that fucked up his chance. I'm not the one. I didn't mess up anything. I didn't fuck up anything. I went for it on a day's notice. Honestly, if he got it on a day's notice. If he fought me on a day's notice, I'd whoop his ass. I'd finish him. I'd whoop his ass way worse than I got my ass whooped. So, you know, I there we go again. but yeah, no, on a day's notice, he's not doing shit. He blew his shot. I stole his shot, and I'm gonna keep stealing his shots. He's got nothing. He's done. He's like 10th on the list right now. GSP, that was his shot. He blew it. He blew it big time.
How likely do you think it is that this fight comes together? Because I think you versus Tony, I mean, that'd be a really fun fight. But given it doesn't seem like he's too interested, how likely do you think that it is that it happens?
Well, I don't know. He's gonna have to. He's not fighting. I don't think he's fighting for the title next. No one wants to see. No one really wants to see it anymore. So, I don't know if it's going to be me, but it's going to be somebody else. I don't know who it's going to be. But I don't think he's going to end up fighting for the title. Very, very slim chances. The only way he fights for the title on his next fight is if Khabib wins. But still, they promoted that fight like 10 times already. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. The only if, and I want Khabib to win. It makes me look great. It's, he goes out there and wins, which I think he has a great chance of doing. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I think he's going to end up fighting somebody. Who it is, I don't know. But it's not going to be. I don't think he's going to fight for the belt next. I think it'll be Poirier, Diaz, GSP, somebody.
I think you're definitely onto something. Have you spoken to the UFC at all? Have you had any contact with them about this fight or any fight in particular as far as your next fight goes?
A bit. I don't know. They were talking about putting me on the New York card, but it didn't seem. I don't know. It doesn't seem. I'm not like pushing them too hard. It doesn't seem like they're too eager, so I'm just kind of like enjoying life right now.
Wow. What was the discussion like? Was there an opponent, anyone in particular that they wanted you to face?
There was talks of Pettis, Kevin Lee. The Hooker.
Ah, Dan Hooker. He'd love to fight you. Any of those guys kind of.
Honestly, that would be a good. Maybe there's one in Australia. When is that?
That's
Adelaide.
December,
There's Adelaide.
Yeah, early December.
I'm always down to come. We'll come. Let's go. Maybe. We'll see. Man, it's not a bad idea, but I don't know. That's like kind of like a. I'd rather obviously fight Pettis or Kevin Lee over him. But if it ends up being him in Adelaide, I've never been to Adelaide. That'd be pretty dope, right?
Adelaide's nice, city of church. Dude, we would love you down here. I mean, sometimes, these cards, these Aussie cards, they're a little bit low on the international star power. You versus Dan Hooker. That's a main event. That's a co-main event. That's up there. We'd love it. But I guess from your perspective, you being a Long Island guy, I feel like New York would be where you would want to fight. How come that didn't come together? I feel like that'd be like, you kind of missed out on that in the past. It's almost the dream.
You said I missed out on it?
Yeah, like in the past it didn't happen, so now
I didn't miss the UFC missed out on it big time.
Right.
Sean Shelby's missing out on it big time. So that's not, it's not, listen, that's their thing. They could put all the big names on the card. Thank God they got Weidman on. I mean, they're really just, I don't know.
And he's fighting Rockhold on this card, so you and Weidman, that'd be great as well. How come that didn't sort of come together?
Right?
Yeah.
You'd have to ask them. They put Hooker and, I mean, Jesus, now I got him stuck in my head. Who is it? Oh, Romero and who's the other guy? Costa.
Well, apparently
and
that's
Romero's
not happening.
So I texted Sean Shelby today, and I said, "Oh, it looks like opening on a New York card. 30 minutes away from my house in my home state," and he didn't respond. So it doesn't. It probably looks like they're gonna find a replacement for Costa. They'll have a Brazilian fight. I don't know. In New York. I don't know. I feel like they don't even know really what's going on.
We saw that Kevin Lee was sort of looking to fight you at UFC 229, and you said that you couldn't do it any earlier than November. Was he a guy that you'd possibly like to fight in New York if things worked out perfectly? Absolutely,
New York. Let's go. It's perfect. October is soon. Listen, he's got nothing going on except fighting. I got a lot of things going on. I'm enjoying things. If he wants to fight in November, like, what is he going to do? He's going to make weight in October? First off, he's a 170-pounder. Second, he's not fighting anybody in October. He's got no opponent. So let's just set a date in November. Let's set a date in November and make it happen. You know? He's saying, I'm the A side. Listen, dude, you're not the A side. I beat you last. I'm the A side. I don't care. Rankings don't mean anything. Nothing. I'm your daddy. Like, get out of here. With the freaking rank, with the A side, B side. I'm the A side. Get out of here. Kevin Lee. Guy's freaking, what are you, nuts? The Motown Phenom. Guy lives in Vegas. How you can't change your name. You can't be the Motown Phenom living in Vegas. Guys, out of here.
If you had to sort of choose which opponent excites you more, is it the fight with Lee or is it Tony Ferguson? And at this point where they are as fighters, who do you think is the tougher fight for you?
I feel like I beat the crap out of both of them, but Kevin Lee's probably a tougher fight. I think he's come a long way. He's probably a tougher fight.
Do you feel like the Tony Ferguson fight would be quick?
What's that?
You feel like the Tony Ferguson fight would be a quick one?
That's what I've been shooting for, but I mean, he's durable. He's crazy. He's out of his mind. Definitely out of his mind. So, you know, you got to kill that guy to put him away. So I mean, I don't think any fight I would bank on it being a quick one. If it was, it'd be great. But those guys are all tough, you know.
I think that's why these would all be very exciting fights. So I guess, you know, if we're sort of saying percentage-wise, how likely do you think it is that you end up on this New York card? I know Sean Shelby hasn't texted you yet, but it's kind of, well, I mean, it's somewhat late in the day, but maybe a text tomorrow. What are the chances that you fight on that card?
I'm saying they're not great. I'm saying they're not great. Doesn't seem like he's too. What are you thinking? It shows a lot. You know, it says everything. So when I fight, I fight. If not, I'm not worried about it. Maybe we'll fight next year. Who knows? Maybe we'll just go to Adelaide and hang out. We'll go hang out. Where are you guys, in Sydney?
Well, we're in Melbourne. We'll come to Adelaide and hang out with you, Al. We've got a lot of fun things to show you. Quickly, before we let you go, though, a lightweight fight happening in the main event this coming weekend. James Vick, Justin Gaethje. Who do you think wins that fight? And are you going to watch it? Are you going to keep an eye on any of these guys, or do you feel like they haven't really reached our level?
No, absolutely. I'll keep an eye on it. Gaethje's tough. It's going to be Vick. I think Vick doesn't like to get in brawls. He doesn't like to really. He's kind of like, I think he's got a good style. He's not going to engage in that kind of fight. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I don't know. If I had to put money on somebody, I think Gaethje's the underdog. I would put money on just because I think it's a pretty even matchup. It could go either way. I would put money on him because he's the underdog. But yeah, I couldn't call it, to be honest with you. I couldn't call it. I hope Vick wins because I like the guy. He was on Ultimate Fighter with me, so we got some history. He's a good friend. I see him at a lot of the fights. You know, Gaethje, I don't know. He's all right, but I think my you know, I think it's an even fight. I hope Vick pulls it off. I hope he pulls it out.
Yeah, and Vick was actually on the show the other week, and he had a lot of nice things to say about you. He said, I wish nothing but the best for Al and Kevin Lee, and I hope they have a fight, and I hope they have a great fight. So, as do we, man, whether it's Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis, even Dan Hooker in Adelaide, we can't wait to see who you get matched up with, man. We hope it all works out. We hope that whoever you get the best deal possible, and it's been so much fun chatting with you, man. We said at the top of the interview, one of the realest dudes out there. And with the you-knows or without the you-knows, which I think you curbed towards the end, we love it, man. We could talk to you for hours and hours. Don't forget to follow Al on Twitter and Instagram, at Iaquinta. Check out HomeKnockout.com. Buy a house, buy a couple of houses, buy a mansion. Just buy something from Al Iaquinta. The guy's phenomenal at his job. And look, we'll be seeing you in Adelaide. It's pretty much an official date, Al. We'll be hanging out. But hopefully we'll see you fighting there as well, or at least New York, man. We're pulling for you, and we hope that happens for you.
I appreciate it. You guys are the best. I love it. So I hope to see you guys down there.
Hey, this is Tony Okagui Ferguson, and you guys listen to Submission Radio. Keep tuning in, guys.
All right, guys. Our next guest is an accomplished amateur wrestler from the University of Oklahoma, setting a record 30 pins during one season. That's pretty crazy. He was known as Jack Swagger to many during his time with the WWE, a run that saw him win the ECW World Heavyweight and United States Championship, as well as the Money in the Bank in 2010. He is now signed and getting ready for his Bellator MMA debut. Jake Hager, welcome for the first time to Submission Radio. It's great to have you, man.
Hey, thank you guys. One hell of an introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, it could have been longer, but that was kind of the condensed version. We figured, highlights only. We'll leave the best stuff. Gotta ask you though, man. Your name is Donald Jacob Hager. So when you fight, what name will it be under for Bellator? What will be the official name? And also, between Jack, Jake, and Donald, does it ever become confusing for people and too many names for them to call you when they talk to you?
As long as you're not calling me stupid, I'm okay with it. So I will be fighting under Jake Hager. So my real name is Jake Hager. That's what I'll be fighting under. We tried to get to use Jack Swagger, but that is just taking too long. So it is going to be Jake Hager. Sorry, I'm taking you a tour around my house.
No, that's
fast. Cool. And, it's crazy how similar my real name is with my gimmick name. And it's funny because when I was in high school and college, everyone would say, "Hey, Hager, you want to go get some pizza or something?" And now that I'm Jack Swagger, they're always like, Swagger, do you want to go do this? So I guess I'm not allowed to use first names. You just got to call me by my last name. That's just the way it goes.
Well, we're looking at your Twitter, and it seems like you're still wrestling a lot. We remember you were in Australia shortly after leaving WWE last year, and you haven't really stopped wrestling since. Roughly, how many matches would you say you do a week, and how much traveling would you typically be doing now that you're wrestling sort of on the independent circuit?
So instead of doing like 4 to 5 matches a week, I'm doing 2 to 3. Usually Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, and then either home Sunday or a home Monday. So it's been a great big learning curve. Actually, the first year, you're just trying to get on your feet and accommodate yourself to the new routine and everything. And so the second year has been a lot easier. I got the travel figured out, the days that I want to work. And then, of course, trying to juggle the training in between the shows is really the fun part. But, be careful what you wish for. So I asked for it, so give it to me, babe.
Yeah, you're a busy man between the wrestling and the MMA training. And we know these indie shows obviously can be, quite a bit of an experience. What's a funny travel or sort of indie wrestling story that's happened since you've left WWE that stands out to you?
Let's see here.
I know in Australia, I noticed you were wearing some board shorts. I went to the show, you had some board shorts and a t-shirt on. Looks like someone stole your wrestling gear or something.
Oh my gosh, what did I pack wrong for that trip? I came to your winter with board shorts and tank tops like I'm going to the beach. By the time I was leaving there, I had 2 pairs of tights on, 2 sweatshirts, a jacket, just freezing. I haven't had too many crazy funny stories travel-wise. I got asked to leave a plane one time because I asked the pilot a question, and then he told everyone that I threatened him, which is pretty ridiculous.
What was the question? What did you ask?
I think I said, "Are you a dickhead?" Can I say that?
Why?
I don't
What
know.
brought this on? I can't imagine you just walked on a plane and went, "Hey, are you a dickhead?" How did this start?
No, what really happened was I was joking earlier, guys. Come on. What really happened is I boarded the plane and I was in Manchester, England, and I was coming home, and I woke up and we're still on the same runway. And I had a connection in Amsterdam. It was the lucky 3 flights to get back to the States.
Wow.
Travel. And I knew I had missed it, so I was just trying to get a little more information, and they weren't giving it to me. And so I got a little angry, but, we just got off the plane and flew out the next day.
I think it's a good, valid question to ask before you go on the plane and someone controls your destiny up in the sky. Are you a dickhead should be a part of like the security check that the stewardesses do when they take out the little vests and show you the little light and whistle that's apparently going to save your life if you crash. Let's talk about the WWE, because I guess a lot of people that haven't heard from you in a little while would be wondering why you sort of left. A lot of wrestlers seem to sort of stick around and just sort of collect the paycheck even if the company's not doing much with them. Tell us, what was sort of your decision in leaving? Because I believe you've been with the company for quite some time, pretty much since you finished college. That was sort of your home for a long time.
Yeah. Well, the WWE, it's a dream job, but it's like any other job where there's politics and you got bosses that you have to deal with. And so for me, in the great words of Drizzy Drake, the moment I stop having fun with it, I'm done with it. So it got to the point where not that I wasn't having fun, because, going out there in front of thousands of fans and wrestling, it's what I'm born to do. But it came to a point where I wasn't there for the same reasons that they were having me there. Like I need to compete. And that's one thing that I take away from leaving WWE is I will never go this long without competing again, because it's a part of who I am. And when I'm not competing is when I will struggle with things, because I'm not going 100% or focused 100%. So for me, it was a combination of two things. Just I needed a change. I needed to be pushed. I needed to be challenged. And also, it was a great opportunity. It was a great time to leave. It's a great time to be a pro wrestler right now. As you guys said, I'm working nonstop since I left the company. It's also a great time to be a pro fighter. So that's also why I left. I knew that I had this opportunity ahead of me and that I needed to leave to focus on it and really give MMA 125%. And, as well as capitalize on the great TV exposure that I received over the last 12 years.
And just on that competitiveness that you have inside you, obviously some of the guys in the back of the WWE are legitimate tough guys and obviously phenomenal wrestlers, guys like Kurt Angle, and the most notable probably other than yourself is Brock Lesnar. Did you guys ever compare wrestling skill sets? Obviously Brock back in the day, he had sort of the competitions between Kurt Angle in the back, him and Kurt Hennig. Did you guys ever sort of have a wrestler to see who was sort of the best wrestler in the back amongst the boys?
I mean, by compare wrestling techniques, you mean that I can take Brock Lesnar down at will? Yes, then we compared wrestling techniques. I could close my eyes and tie one hand behind my back, and I could bounce Brock Lesnar's forehead off the mat if he ever tried to wrestle with me.
Did you guys test it out for real in the back one of the times, or you didn't get the opportunity?
No, we never had the opportunity, but that's what would happen. So you could just say that it did happen.
Because I guess for a long time, especially during his UFC run, a lot of people have built up the fact that he's an NCAA wrestler. But from a wrestling perspective, a lot of people have talked about the fact that it's not really technique with Brock. It's more kind of raw power and athleticism. How would you rate his technique and sort of what he can do when it comes to amateur wrestling?
Well, anybody who just tries to use raw power and athleticism, you're not going to be a national champion. You're not going to be on scholarship wrestling in college. You may be a good high school wrestler. You may be all right junior high, but I'll ask for give me the big, raw power athletic guy every time, and my technique will beat you. It's just that type of game where you need the technique, you need the strategy, you need the psychology. And so people who say that about Brock just really don't know what they're talking about, because you don't get to the level where he's at without technique.
How would you compare him and Daniel Cormier's wrestling, and I guess his chances against Cormier? A lot of people leaning towards DC, but he's coming in straight into this title shot against him right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, Brock, but I'm rooting for DC. He went to Oklahoma State. I went to Oklahoma. We're kind of arch rivals, but at the same time, when we're not fighting each other, we root for each other. DC has really developed his wrestling strengths into a great striking game. He works for the underhooks, and as soon as he gets that head tie on you, he's coming with the uppercut, or he's coming with that right hook. And as you saw what he did with Stipe, if I pronounced that correctly, it really neutralized on the feet, and made it look like Miocic was just standing right there in front of Cormier, which we all know he wasn't. But Cormier's technique and the way that he utilized his uppercut and his right hook, once he got into that head tie and got close, that was the game changer. So I would look for Cormier to continue to do this strategy, because if you break down his films, you can see that he does this with a lot of people. He did it with Gustafsson. He did it with Rumble Johnson. This is something that he has worked on and perfected over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, because we've heard a lot of times, sometimes when you're in a pro wrestling match, things get out of control and don't go to plan. Have you ever had to use your amateur wrestling to sort of calm things down a little bit and show people who's boss?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Sometimes the amateur wrestling doesn't send the right message. Like if you squeeze someone down and put the clamps on, they're still squirming a little bit. Sometimes you just got to use the old right hand to get them to calm down. You can ask Cesaro about this. I'm friends with Brodus Clay, but we were tagging with him on Raw one day, and he just wasn't getting the message. And Cesaro was hitting him pretty hard, and he tagged me in, and I started hitting him hard, and he still wasn't getting the message. So me and Tony just kind of looked at each other, and I hit him with everything I had. I'm pretty sure he went down.
So it wasn't the wrestling you used; it was the fists you used. You hit him with some potatoes, right?
Yeah, I got a little frustrated. I guess I could have done a duck under and taken him down, but
just quickly, obviously we know you were watching the UFC while you were in the WWE, but how popular is MMA amongst the guys in the back? Is it something you guys discussed, something you guys closely followed, or was it just something that you found that you closely kept your eye on because you always sort of wanted to get into MMA once you got out of the WWE?
As far as the roster at the WWE, I'd say it was 60-40. Most guys would enjoy it, want to talk about it. Guys like Daniel Bryan, Jamie Noble, always had it on their laptops if we were at a live event on a Saturday night or something. And a lot of times we would go and support Brock, and during his fights, if we could make it to a restaurant afterwards, and that had it on. I think it's like the rest of the world. MMA, everyone is kind of learning the rules, because it is a steep learning curve to understand what's going on, and it's becoming very popular.
Well, one of the things is, while you're making your way and transitioning into the world of MMA, tell us just quickly, what do you think of Ronda Rousey and her transition into pro wrestling? Because a lot of people are sort of comparing her as a Kurt Angle, almost skilled potential wrestler, with the quickness that she's picked up the sport and the success that she's had. Are you impressed with what you've seen from her?
I'm sorry, Ronda. I haven't got to see your work yet. I did see the sweet eyeliner she had on for SummerSlam, though. And I don't know if you guys watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but she was dressed just like the Nightman. Google Nightman and tell me I'm wrong.
She also looked like Uncle Leo from Seinfeld. when he lost his eyebrows.
Oh man, the memes about that were great. So of course, on to you. You're getting ready to transition to MMA with Bellator. Talk to us about how you fit your sort of training schedule in around the traveling and wrestling, because we imagine, I guess, it's a bit of a process. And I guess here's the thing: you were originally supposed to fight this year, sometime in 2018. You said potentially 2 times. Is that still the goal? Do you think you still will fight this year?
Yeah, I think I absolutely will fight in 2018. It's too late now to fight in 2000 or to fight twice in 2018. I got real busy with professional wrestling, with Lucha Underground back at the beginning of the year. Bellator's been great to work with. They allowed me to do that and continue, making a name for myself outside of the octagon, which just goes for miles and miles for someone that I want to work with. It really means a lot when they make it easy and they make you feel like you're wanted there. I think the training has been going great. I've really been doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows, and then Monday through Thursday, coming home and hitting that 2-a-day button. Very, very lucky to have this team around me that I do. I pretty much went to Dave Batista and said, give me your team. And these guys have adopted me. I've known a lot of them for years before this. And so it was kind of a special thing for them to come on this journey with me. Guys like Josh Rafferty, he's an ex-UFC fighter. Rob Radford, probably the best MMA boxing coach in the biz. Joey Best, owner of Ybor City Jiu-Jitsu. They've been great for allowing all of my training needs. And so, I started really in March of 17. And so from March of 17 until we signed, which was October and November of 17, training was really rough. And it was like, a lot of questions like, can my body do this? Can my body hold up for the training? Can I get back into that competitive shape? Can I stay healthy? Can I actually learn multiple disciplines and be able to apply them effectively on a professional level? And, so it was kind of, you had to really kind of go through stages. You had to climb the ladder and then get to a certain point in order to get better. And so now that I have about 1.5 years of training under my belt, I really am at a much different stage of the training where I feel confident, where I'm thirsty for blood, and I'm ready to go out there. And I can learn so much faster now because I've been working nonstop with the same coaches and building up the arsenal. So like Monday through Thursday has really been like the important times of the week for me. I go out there on the weekends and give everything I have for the wrestling matches, but I'm definitely focusing on the training. I got my wife at home, Catalina Hager, and anytime I'm sore, anytime I have any bumps and bruises, she's great. She's a certified Pilates therapist where she can isolate it and give me the techniques I can to work out,
Nice.
whether it's a small muscle group or if it's pain. And that's really, really going to put me over the edge as far as momentum and the X factor is because at my age, I have to train smart. I have a lot of miles on my body. And so I'm going to push it and I'm going to train hard as hell. But I'm going to do it in a smart way, and I'm going to be proactive taking care of my body. And my wife has just been amazing at that. And really, guys have this, stereotype about Pilates and yoga. And, no, you should be doing this. Everybody should be doing this. It's that amazing. And so learning a lot. I feel like the training's going good. I'm ready for that next light bulb, but we're still planning on November, December of 2018 for Bellator.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Dave Batista. I saw around Christmas last year, you gave him a little bit of a gift in sparring and gave him a little bit of a shiner. He put it up on his Instagram, a picture of his face. What exactly went down? Did you guys do a bit of initial sparring when you first joined the team?
Yeah, he's been great to train with, but I think he just bought a really expensive Guardians of the Galaxy doorknob and walked into it. I didn't put that on. He's my friend. I wouldn't do that to him. I got a pretty nice one here myself.
Yeah.
Actually. That's actually from MVP this past weekend in pro wrestling.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, we spoke to Bas Root, and he comes on the show regularly, and he said he never really got injured in MMA, but when he did pro wrestling, that's where he got some of his worst injuries. So it's definitely hard on the body. Let me ask you something. With CM Punk, we saw his training team took a strategy where he sort of had warm-up fights in the gym to prepare him for when he walks out for the first time into the octagon. And with you walking out to Bellator for the first time and being your first pro fight, what kind of strategies are you guys utilizing to prepare you just for the feeling of walking out there, the feeling of walking into the cage for the first time, the feeling of looking across the octagon at your opponent? Because it's very different from pro wrestling. What kind of stuff are you guys doing to prepare you for that?
Well, I don't know if a lot of people know this about me, but I grew up in Oklahoma, and so there's a real big horse fighting ring going on there amongst 10-year-old boys. So I'm going to rely a lot on that, and I'm going to go into the cage the same way I went into that horse fight. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry I'm not funnier.
No, you're good.
Dry humor is good.
Okay. I just wanted to say I can knock out a horse, but
yeah.
That was my grandpa. Yeah, we're definitely going to rely on my amateur wrestling. Our team, our coaches believe that's the most important discipline that you can have. One, because that's where you really get tired with the fights, the accelerations, the getting up, getting down, having someone fall on you, feeling their weight. So we're going to rely on my Division I college background and look at fights similar to a Division I wrestling match, because you're one-on-one out there on an island by yourself where it's just you in 7 minutes, you're alone. Now, the shortest MMA fight will be 15 minutes, or it could be 15 seconds. But we're gonna heavily rely on the mindset that we use for professional wrestling, and then we're also gonna use the experience I have in front of the television cameras. I mean, I performed on the biggest stage of them all, so the bright lights really don't concern me, even though this is, professional fighting. I think, if anything, my background at the WWE, that's going to be a benefit. It's going to really help me with the experience. But then you have to jump into, okay, well, you're still jumping into a professional fight for the first time. So what type of strategies are you going to employ, and how do you prepare for it? Honestly, I'm not going to sit here and sound like I'm this big boxing historian. I'm going to rely on my team. I got a great team around me. I got great coaches around me. So I'm just going to show up and do the work and focus on getting better and want this more than anyone else, and get myself into a shape to where I won't get tired in there. And so if I do find myself into a situation where I'm not used to getting hit, or, I'm in a compromising jiu-jitsu stance, well, then I'm going to rely on my shape to get me out of it and to really keep me cool under pressure. And some combination of those things, once we get close, there's going to be a left foot in there, there's going to be a left hook and a serious right hand, and hopefully a lot of takedowns.
I imagine there'd be a lot of takedowns, of course. I was going to say, in terms of who your first opponent would be, what are you looking for in terms of a first opponent? Of course, you'll be going there, making your pro debut. I know with Aaron Pico, they gave him a go. I think had a 10-fight record. Would you be looking for someone with a low kind of record? I can't imagine you would have a name in mind at this point so early.
Yeah, again, I think that's a little bit above my pay grade. I'm going to rely on my team and my managers to focus on that. I would want someone similar to me, but at the same time, you know, I'm doing this for a reason, so I'm not going to shy away. If the team tells me I'm ready for this person, then let's go get them.
Let's talk a little bit about this heavyweight Grand Prix that's happening in Bellator at the moment. Who do you think's going to you've been watching it closely, I'm guessing. Who do you think's going to win it between Sonnen and Fedor and Bader and Mitrione? Who do you think's going to come out as the ultimate winner of this Grand Prix?
Man, what great semifinals. What great semifinals. You have the Emperor Fedor versus the new age trash talking bad boy. I just can't wait to see how Fedor handles Chael's antics. You know, I think it's going to be really interesting. The fact that they're doing back-to-back nights is so cool for the semifinals. At the beginning of it, I said Matt Mitrione. I said he's a heavyweight and he's the youngest with the most skill. I thought he did very good against Roy Nelson. Ryan Bader coming off that win against Mo, you know, I think is everyone's number one, everyone's pick to win it. So another great semifinal matchup. I love how they kind of have the light heavyweight versus the returning Emperor, and then they got the two, they got a light heavyweight again in Bader, but they got the two younger guys on the other side ready to go at it. And Matt, you're welcome. Yes, I called you young. You're welcome.
I mean, I know it's still a little ways away, and these guys are at the top of the division and guys with lots and lots of fights. But let's say you do go on a winning streak and you find that this is the right thing for you and you're feeling good. What would be a dream fight for you? I mean, you have legends like Fedor. You have legends, you have guys like Ryan Bader, up-and-coming guys. You have guys like Frank Mir on the roster. Is there a name on there when you close your eyes and imagine sort of a dream matchup for you in front of the crowd of Bellator with a legend that sort of stands out to you?
You know, I always find it interesting when people say that they have these dream matches against these Hall of Fame fighters. Like, no, I don't want to fight a Hall of Fame fighter. A dream match would be fighting a can of Play-Doh or something. That's a dream match. Pay me lots of money. Let me fight a donut.
the MMA equivalent of a squash match, essentially. As we wrap up, Jack.
Well, hey, since you brought that up, let's just get this clear, guys. All right, I'm a jab guy, not a job guy.
No else knows here. As we wrap up, just want to quickly ask, since you're doing all the pro wrestling, a lot of fans are wondering if you'll be coming back down to Australia. Any chance you'll make your way back down here on a trip in between fights to see the Australian crowd again?
Yeah, absolutely. I tried to go back this year with House of Hardcore, but our dates couldn't line up. I know World Series of Wrestling has been doing some amazing tours. All the Americans come back talking about how well they're taken care of and the hospitality. And so I look forward to being a part of that as well. Really, in my mind, I'm going to fight at the end of 2018. I'm going to make a statement, and then in a couple months, I'm going to fight again. Since I'm already, in the shape, I already got the camp going. And then after that, I think it's time to get down to Australia, but I will dress warmer this time.
Well, we can't wait to have you, Jake. Guys, make sure to follow Jake on Twitter at RealJackSwagger. We can't wait to see who your debut is going to be against. Just quickly, as we let you go, I know you used to wrestle at 275, I believe, back in Oklahoma. I see you've really gotten into good shape lately with your MMA training. What kind of weight do you sort of think you'll be fighting at?
My coaches want me around 250, 245. And, honestly, I'm walking around 255, 260. So after 45 days of camp, I'm going to be lucky to be 245. It's just kind of coming off right now. But it's thank you for the compliment.
No worries. We're always keeping an eye on you guys. Again, make sure to follow Jake on Twitter at RealJackSwagger. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck with the training, and we can't wait to see who you fight next. Thank you so much, Jake.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Casper.
This is TJ Dillashaw, UFC champ. Listen to Submission Radio.
All right, guys. Our next guest is the talk of the UFC's middleweight division, a self-proclaimed good cunt, and will be taking on Derek Brunson at UFC 230 on November 3rd at the iconic Madison Square Garden. The last style bender himself, Israel Adesanya. Welcome back to the program. How are you today, man?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Very good, very good. It's a chilly morning here in Melbourne. I imagine it's the same in New Zealand. Tell us, Israel. I mean, it's been a pretty crazy year for you in terms of success. The fans love you. The UFC loves you. You're on all the big shows. And I'm pretty sure you're invited to every UFC pay-per-view hosting party in New Zealand that we see on Twitter. You're always out there with the fans enjoying the show. So what would you say is the biggest difference in your life compared to 6 months ago when you made your UFC debut?
You know, when I made my UFC debut, I said when I get in that cage, you know, I keep that same energy. And that's the same thing in my life, you know. I keep that same energy. I keep evolving, but it's not really me that's changed. It's the world around me that's changed, you know. And I've said as well, even in one of my my Instagram posts, I just said, fuck fame, but I like the perks. I like the perks a lot. But, yeah, I'm just enjoying this whole ride one day at a time because before you know it, it's gone. But, you know, I'm just enjoying it.
You know, it's funny you bring up that Instagram post because we sort of wanted to touch it. I know it was kind of long and heartfelt, but that was the quote that sort of got me interested. I hate fame, but I like the perks and the opportunity it's given me. What exactly do you mean by that? What is it? Because I'm fascinated by sort of, you know, public figures and the experiences they go through, the ones that we don't really see. You know, what is it that you hate about fame and some of the things that you sometimes have to deal with?
I won't dive too much into it, but, you know, like you said, you know, what the public doesn't really see. Like, I only show maybe 10% of my life on Instagram. And a lot of people in this day and age, they get caught up in all that stuff. And, you know, because everyone only posts their highlights. No one ever posts, you know, the other side. So everyone kind of compares themselves to that shit. And we've all been through it. So, yeah, when I speak on fuck fame, I mean, like, I don't know, there's just so many aspects to it. But one thing I do miss, this is just me being me, my privacy. And Auckland's a small place. So, you know, a lot of people know who I am now and whatnot. And I just still live like I did a year ago, 2 years ago. You know, I go out by myself. I don't have any entourage. My entourage is just two guys, you know, my boys. And sometimes it might be a whole squad. But, yeah, I still just do me. And it gets, let's just say everyone's watching. So I know the struggles of a hot chick now when she walks into a room. Let's put it that way.
The struggles that I always wished I could know as well, Israel. Speaking of Instagram, I mean, I'm betting you get hit up on that all the time. We saw that screenshot where some girl responded to a message that you sent her back in November. Just curious, explain the backstory and the meaning behind that. What exactly happened there?
Okay, so everybody's thirsty. You know, we're all thirsty. You just have to find, you know, a cup that is willing to drink with you. You're willing to drink as well. And, yeah, I was hitting someone up, I think, back in November. And I got the scene, you know. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, there we go. And funny enough, it was after my Glendale fight, you know, which was in, like, May or something. And it was after that, then suddenly she replied. I was like, sorry for the long reply. In my head, I was just like, why? Yeah, I just thought it was funny. I don't mind if you keep it real and just say, you know, you only want to hang out because you're on TV and stuff. But I don't like the whole fakeness, and that's part of the thing. I mean, people are just so fake, and everyone wants something. But I don't mind being used. I just don't want to be misused or abused. Because if you're not used, yeah, I can use you if you can use me, and it's mutual, but not misuse or abuse.
I'm just curious, with that conversation, was that the end of it? I know you sort of hit, she's like, oh, sorry for the delayed reply, and you're like, oh, yeah, I wonder why. Was that the end of it, or did it continue afterwards?
I got the scene again. I got the scene again, and that was it. Well, I mean, I keep it real. I don't play.
Well, speaking of things that have been building up for a while, you predicted on our show that you would be fighting Derek Brunson way back when you just beat Marvin Vettori. But it goes even further than that. You guys apparently met in 2015. Describe that interaction. What exactly happened?
So that was a UFC in Auckland. And yeah, in Auckland, like I there's not a lot of brothers, not a lot of black people. So when you see another brother, you kind of give this blackness confirmed salute, like, what's up? I'm black. But and then I saw him, like, kind of like just up, and he iced me, and I was like, this motherfucker. And I just knew back then straight away I knew I was gonna fight him, and that showed me as well that he knew who I was. That was 3 years ago when I wasn't even signing the UFC, and I was making noise. These guys all knew who I was, but I said I'm the Dark Lord, Lord Voldemort. They can't say my name. They won't even mention me. So yeah, that just proved it to me. Like, this guy already knew I was a threat way back then. Because I mean, what was stopping him from saying, confirming? But he's a shit cunt anyway. So yeah, he's one of those guys. Like, after the fight, I don't really care if he's hurt. Let's put it that way.
Oh, wow. It's interesting because when you guys were doing the press conference stare down, it was such a big contrast in terms of body language, where sort of he was leaning in a lot towards you. You were sort of, I guess, standing tall.
That's how he's going to fight. Not for Dana holding him back. He would have leant right into my punch or an uppercut or something. Because I had my fist on his chest. So that's exactly how he's going to fight. You see me, I established the range. Boom. Fist on his chest. And you see him just rushing in. Even with Dana in the middle. And Dana had to hold him back. That's exactly how he's going to fight. It's already said and done. He's already given me, showed me his hands. And he even admitted, yes, I'm a bum, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that. He ain't going to change shit. He's been trying to change his style for how long, but he's going to revert to his habits, and he does his habits, and my habits is winning. And winning is a habit, so I'm going to keep winning.
What do you make of the fact that he kept yelling and repeating that you were too skinny throughout the thing? That was his biggest attack, sort of put down to you.
Yeah, and he had some lines he was gonna say, and you can see when he remembered them, he'd be like, "Oh." I'm like, "Shut up!" Honestly, this is that meme I made of him with the book Trash Talking for Dummies. That's exactly what I knew, and I posted that just before I got to the press conference. I knew, I was like, this guy's already got some bullshit he's memorized. He's gonna repeat it and try and be louder, so that way he thinks his win. That's how his mind works. You have to yell and get louder than the person, so that way, you feel like, oh, I'm the one doing this. I'm running this shit right now. You're too skinny, bro. Oh, and I even spoke to him in my language. He didn't even understand a word that I said. Nothing. So that's good for me. People are laughing all the way back home.
It's interesting because I saw you speaking about, and it's a sort of known fact. You've said how Anderson Silva changed the way that you look at fighting, because back in the day you used to think that in order to beat people up you had to be big and muscly, and Anderson was this little skinny guy, but he was just destroying people. So do you love that aspect of this fight as well? The fact that he did say you're too skinny, you sort of have that perfect stage now to keep proving that theory right.
Yeah, I keep saying it. Even though I mean, I probably lift more than him anyway, so I'm going to post another video, actually. You guys will see. But, yeah, just to prove my point. Skinny boys can't lift. Yeah, this ain't good anyway. Fighting at the end of the day, so if he wants to go lift, go pose with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s or something.
That's right. So there's another video coming. Can you give us a preview of when it might drop?
It's an old one. It's an old one, but I'm just going to remix it just for Derek Brunson.
Nice.
It's simple. All these movies are simple things, but it's just the impact that they have, the comedic timing, the placement. He has no idea about anything of that. So, yeah, he's gonna copy as well. He's Mr. B2 now. He's gonna try and copy after I do my own.
You've talked about how you want to fight and you beat all the killers in your division. It doesn't seem like you're really in a rush for that title shot. You just want to fight the toughest guys. So I guess what's the motivation here with Brunson, and how much of a killer is he when it comes to sort of the division?
It's not really about him, honestly. It's about me. Wait, quick second. Can you guys hear me right?
Yep, we can. Yep. Cool.
Yeah, so it's not really about him. It's about me. I said I just want to beat all the killers in my division and some, So after it's said and done, it's about, who was the best of all time? Who was the one that actually didn't duck anyone, didn't test positive for anything, was cool. Some liked him, some hated him. At the end of the day, I'm that guy, and I've seen it already. I've done it many times over. So I just have to realize it now. And I'm just enjoying myself along the way. One time I was in New York after my Vittori fight. I was in New York for one night, and it was one of the best nights ever, So now I get to go back for a longer stint, kick some ass, and yeah, just hang out and just enjoy the culture over there. So Yeah, it's not really about him. The motivation is just about me living this lifestyle. You know, like I said, I enjoy the perks, and yeah, they are perks.
What's the best perk? I feel like you're leaving us out there. See that cheeky smile.
Yeah, I mean, even for me, there's so many things I've done. Like, not everything goes on my Snapchat, on the gram, or on a story. Like, there's so many famous people I've met that I feel weird asking for pictures now. It just feels so disingenuous, you know? And even for me, when people, I forget who I am all the time because I'm just me living my life from my perspective, first point perspective. So I forget that people see me as this guy on TV and whatnot. So when people run up to me, like, imagine if you're just chilling and line somewhere, and then someone just runs up to, oh my God. And so it's like, whoa, yo, what's up? Bring it down. Bring it like 2 notches, 3 notches down. Because it's just, you know, I don't know. But sometimes in certain places it's all right. But if someone I don't mind. And you get some cool people who approach you like real nice, just relax, calm, and then you have a little bit of a cordial, and then just they'll be on their merry way. They don't try and keep you long. You know, I just like those interactions, and that makes me even want to hang out more and just kind of. I like cool people. I just don't like weird people. Yeah, I forgot the question anyway. I was just rambling.
Well, I was going to say, is there a person out there that would make you starstruck? Like, is there a particular actor, singer, any kind of sort of personality that if you saw him, you would freak out? For example, me and Casper in the back of a UFC, and Leonardo DiCaprio and Justin Timberlake were around the corner, or we went around the other corner and missed out on a chance to see them. That would make us starstruck. What about you?
Okay, I'll give you a story. The last person to make me starstruck was even surprising to me, and that was Matt Hughes. That was
wow.
And the Golden Snitch can talk about this because he was right there. He was the one leading me to the bathroom. But I was 6, and yeah, for whatever reason, because I don't know. I've just all seen him on DVDs. You know, his fights with Frank Trigg, GSP. You know, like and seeing him and what he's gone through as well. You know, with the whole accident, and seeing him walk again, like. Even when he walked out after his accident, I can't remember. It wasn't for his Hall of Fame. He just walked out in the UFC.
Yeah.
When Dana White introduced him. I got chills, man. I honestly, and I remember posting, but I got chills. So he was the last person I saw at 226, and I was just like, I was giggling like a little girl. I was just, I don't know why, and it's just the effect he had on me. So that was cool.
Wow.
Yeah. But everything else for me doesn't really phase me. I don't really take pictures that much these days with certain people. I like to rather just be in the moment, maybe take a couple snaps, and then just enjoy the rest of it in the moment. It's way better.
Just going before off what you said, I know you sort of say that you always like to sort of feel out the fight, and it's on you. It's about you. It's not on your opponent. And in training, you don't really train specifically for your opponent. You just better yourself. I mean, so as the last style bender, what has been the focus for you in training? I know you don't get too much time to sort of really. I mean, it's sort of fight to fight for you, but what has been the biggest focus and I guess biggest development for you that you've enjoyed recently?
Who else is the most active fighter this year? I can't think of one.
You're the new Cerrone.
Yeah, fuck. I even met Cerrone as well at the press conference. He's cool, but you know he's getting old as well, so he can't really do, you know, the shit the way he was doing as well. And yeah, fuck. I've been busy and I'm loving it. You know, after the fight, I said I was gonna take some time off. And I did. That's the funny thing. I just thought I might leave longer. But then within like 2-3 weeks, I was just like, I want to fight again. So, yeah. And, you know, we just signed a new contract. So, hey, you know, we're enjoying ourselves over here. But, yeah. What was the question again?
Just, I guess, the biggest development and focus in training, if there's been anything that you've been sort of enjoying recently.
No, not really. I've just been enjoying the process of it. We've picked out some shots for Bompson over there.
You mentioned the new contract. I mean, we always know the next contract is always the best contract. Are you happy with the deals in your contract? And do you feel like they reflect sort of what you bring for the UFC when you go to these shows? Because a lot of people sort of see you as the big sort of rising star and a person that brings in a lot of people and attention.
Call it what it is. I'm the next cash cow. No, I'm saying like the new contract definitely, you know, I always, you know, feel like maybe because I know who I am and what I'm going to do for the company. So I know I know my worth. but it just has to. What I've shown them so far in 3 fights for the new payroll I'm on. I mean, for 3 fights, that's not bad. 3 fights in the company, I'm already like, I'm doing more than a lot of these vets in this game, a lot of champions in this game. Let's just put it that way. Talking just everything wise, you know, a lot of guys being in this game haven't even headlined ever, and I did it in my 3rd fight. A lot of, you know, I mean, I might even go for the belt in my next fight, depending on how smoke bumps, and you know, anything can happen. You know, never say never. I just feel like now's the time. I'm gonna whoop these guys anyway, so might as well look good doing it with some gold around my shoulder, you know. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm enjoying myself. I'm happy with the new contract. Life is good. LG baby.
Just on that belt, what about Kelvin Gastelum? Because him and Rob are doing tough. He's sort of next in line. And I heard you say that you would even be down to fight in Adelaide, which is, I think, less than a month after UFC 230, which would be crazy. But then there's rumors of maybe a Melbourne card next year early, and you would think they'd probably put Robert Whittaker on that. Would you maybe be eyeing something like that so that if anything happens in the main event, you're on the card, you're ready to step in?
A big guy. Like, you know, they're paying people now to make weight. And Dan Hooker was like, man, if you get paid to make weight and you don't actually fight, you're a fitness model. I was like, well, I'll be a fitness model for a fucking title fight in Melbourne with Robert Whittaker. Just all like, yeah, I don't mind stepping in and just being that guy, make weight just in case, because you never know. Someone might sleep on a banana pill. Shit happens. You know, another case of horse meat or whatever, Mexican supplements. Shit happens, and it's happened so many times. So I like the fact now that they're putting people in place. I think for my fight with Brad, they had what's his name, or Hammer Chest. I had him in place just in case.
Yep.
So, you know, I don't mind. It's easy money anyway. Well, I get paid to make weight. If I can fight, sure, I'll do that as well. But paid to make weight, why not?
It's interesting because Brunson was the guy that Robert Whittaker beat before he got his title shot. Do you want to send some kind of message? Do you look at that fight? Is there any pressure there to try and beat Brunson more convincingly? What are your thoughts on that?
Bumps gonna fall. I just like the way he fights. Look at the style. You know, it's just I don't even get. I don't want to say I get insulted when people compare, because even what he said, he's gonna dump me on my head for 5 rounds. It's like, who's dumped me on my head ever? How, Sway? Like, seriously, like, there's no way. There's no way. I'm just gonna do what I do. I just do what I do. Eventually, he's gonna have his chin up in the air and he's gonna get clipped while he swings from 6 o'clock. So it's just enough. I hope he goes to the 2nd round, because I want to look across the cage from him. I want to see him. And there's a moment when you look across the cage from them after the 1st round, and you can just see that they're already broken, or half of them is broken. I just want to see that in his face and him know like he's fucked, and then I can finish him. But I don't know. He might not last the 1st, so we'll see.
Israel, man, we really appreciate your time. We'll let you go in just a moment. Just quickly, do you care who is in the main event at UFC 230? I mean, I'm sure you don't care, but do you have any curiosities about that? There were apparently John Jones, maybe. What do you think about that?
Hey, it's probably John Jones and Gustafsson, because I think that's a fight that makes sense. It's a rematch from the 1st fight, which was really close and really sick. And yeah, so I think it might be that one, but apparently Gustafsson might not be able to fight, so I don't know. But I know also, like, you know, Jones been putting all these snaps up of his comeback trail, so I'm thinking, and he started in New York. I think that's where his career, like, his MMA career started. So yeah, I think John Jones versus Gustafsson. That's my prediction.
And that'd be good for you as well, because, you know, John Jones on the card just brings a lot more eyes to your fight as it is. And
I'm glad, because, I mean, everyone's trying to be on the fucking 229, but I think if you're on the 229, you might get, you know, most likely all the attention's on Conor. So you want to be on the following one, you know, when all these new faces who want to watch the UFC again, they tune into 230 and they look at this skinny black boy and they're like, who the fuck is that guy? That guy whooping ass. That's illegal. It should, I mean, fuck. So I'm on the card. So it's MSG, history. Yeah, I can't wait till afterwards, man. I want to check out New York, not just for one night this time.
Really experience the perks, I imagine. Just quickly, 229, it looks like you might be going there. You posted up a meme. Sounds like maybe you'll be planning a trip there. A meme about being happy that weed is legal. Just curious.
No. Oh, that was me.
What's that?
That was a repost. That was a repost from what's his name? Lucas, the Colonel, Lucas Makaiba. That was a repost from him. He's going to 229. I think he's been to most of any corner card. He's a big MMA fan from New Zealand, and he can fund that lifestyle, so he enjoys himself a lot.
He's a nice guy. I've had beers with him, actually, so shout out to Lucas. Just curious, in that main event, who do you have? Conor, and Khabib. We know you're an analytical guy. How do you see it going?
That's the thing. I haven't looked at it properly yet. But funny thing is, I think maybe about a year ago, maybe when this fight was scheduled or something, I said, man, this would be like the Mendes fight, but Conor has 2 legs this time. And my coach reckons, Conor to win because of frames. And I looked at it, and he said, even like I've looked at my style. I do it as well. My frames, man, you can my frames are nice, and I got that reach for it as well. So does Conor. So every fight starts standing on the feet. I'm kind of analyzing it now. I have to look at it again, and I'll come back to you guys.
Okay.
But it's gonna be a sick fight. Imagine it. Well, who do you have?
Well, we're on the same page, man. It's still early. We're going to be watching video and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
my early prediction here is Conor McGregor, but I could see how Khabib's going to get it done. It's crazy. That's the thing, Israel. When you break down these close fights, one day you feel one way, one day you feel another way, and then the fight happens and it blows everybody away. So with Conor McGregor, he's a hard guy to predict anything with because so many times I've predicted against him and got it wrong. So I'm cautious. I'm cautious, Israel.
You never know, man. You never know. This is a game of MMA. Paper can't fight paper, so this is why they got to get in there and do it. And yeah, I love this game. I can't wait. Can't wait.
We can't wait either, man. It's you and Derek Brunson on November 3rd. It is going to be the 4th in Australia and New Zealand. And it's going to be at UFC 230 in Madison Square Garden in New York, the world's most iconic arena. Of course, follow the man on Twitter and Instagram at StyleBender. And don't forget to buy yourself a Good Cunt t-shirt or a hashtag StayWorkStayBroke t-shirt available from our good friends at EngageInd.com. We could chat to you for hours and hours, man, but we'll let you go. And good luck in the fight, man. We'll be watching. Or if at 229, if you happen to be around there.
Maybe. Nah, I'll probably be going. I'm just going to enjoy from the comfort of my own home.
Awesome, man. We'll put your feet up, enjoy, and thanks so much for taking the time, Israel. Appreciate it.
Sure, thanks, guys. Cool.
This is Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to Submission Radio.
All right, guys. When our next guest walks into a bar, the crowd goes quiet. The beers are ready, and the VIP table is cleared. Scientists are currently working on a way to preserve this man's brain so that a robot with a blue polo may stick around and kick off post-fight press conferences for hundreds of years from now with that iconic voice. It's a pleasure to welcome John Morgan back to Submission Radio. John, welcome to the program.
So you didn't want to tell him the truth that I thought I was signing up for another show when I told you that I would do it this week?
Well, I was going to get there. Let's get into that, actually. So the other day I decided to text John Morgan, who yeah, great, let's do it, and then sends me his Skype. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Where do you have John Morgan's Skype? I wonder why this is. Of course, you didn't even know who we were. John, you could have been on a show about ballerinas trying to make it big in San Diego for all you knew. You were taking a chance.
New phone, who dis? That's basically what I hit you up with.
So basically, anyone could message John at any time and get him on the show as long as he doesn't have your number saved. He'll probably be down to do your program.
That's the kind of guy I am, man. I'm here to help out.
Awesome. It's so good to have you back on the show, John. And obviously we saw you had a good time covering Bellator 204 this past weekend. Talk to us about it, man. How was your experience and what was your highlight of the night for you?
Man, it was fun. It's fun covering, the different organizations just to get a different look at things, you know what I mean? To see how people do things and to get a look at different fighters too, man. I enjoy. I'm honored that I get to sit cage side for the biggest, Conor McGregor fights and George St. Pierre fights and things of that nature. But I love covering the up-and-comers as well, man, and seeing some of these guys in other organizations. Darian Caldwell, a guy in Bellator that's, kind of gone underappreciated, I think, for what he's accomplished over there, what he wants to do. But, of course, the Gallagher loss, that's what everybody was buzzing about, no question. All week long he's coming in, big, bold claims and then to get knocked out the way he did by Bandejas. And that was definitely the highlight of the night. Everybody was incredibly excited about that. And, felt kind of bad for Gallagher in a lot of ways, man. I mean, Gallagher was the one that was clicking all week long going into that. You know what I mean? Even though you had the champion Caldwell moving up a weight class, starting this run to potentially become a 2-division champion, all week long, the interest was in Gallagher. And I think you have to respect that. I mean, the fact that he's able to generate that type of interest is because of his brash personality. I mean, certainly his talent and his skill level is there as well. But, you guys get it, man. People click on personalities. And for him to be willing to put himself out there, it's high risk, high reward. If you get the job done, you do end up looking like Conor McGregor, But when you get knocked out, you're certainly out there for the world to see. So, but by all accounts, has handled himself like a pro since. Maybe some of the stuff on social media was a little strong or whatever. But I think just in the way that Conor McGregor did as well. I mean, he'll definitely learn from the experience.
I was going to say, do you feel like that's something that people were missing? Because a lot of people, look, there was a lot of fighters who were reveling in his loss, and a lot of people standing up for him, saying, you shouldn't take pride, you shouldn't be happy that someone else lost. But at the same time, that's kind of a sign that people care. That's a sign that you're doing something right.
That's 100% it, man. What I always say, apathy is a fighter's worst enemy, man. That's it. You just want people to care one way or the other. And, man, if you can have thick skin and not care what people are saying about you, not care about the hate that's out there, then all the better for you, man. And I think that's where James is got to be at this point. It's weird because I'm kind of in the middle on it, right? Like, you don't want to tell people they can't enjoy seeing somebody lost. I mean, they're kind of playing a character in some degree, right? Like, I mean, they're trying to get under people's skin. And if they are getting under your skin and you enjoy a little bit in the fact they lose, I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, good, I didn't like that guy anyway. I'm kind of glad he lost. I mean, I think that's okay to do as a fan. But, I mean, understand there's still a human being there, man. You know what I mean? And appreciate what they're doing by the fact that they're willing to put themselves out there and that they're willing to put their reputation and their name on the line for our entertainment. And that's what gets us interested in the first place.
The UFC does a lot of stuff right, but the pacing can be brutal sometimes, especially at some of these fight night cards. You tweeted out about how good the pacing was down at Bellator. Sort of talk to us a little bit about that. What did it feel like covering an event where things just moved so quickly?
It's phenomenal, man. A couple things they really do right. The prelims, they run them in super fast. And, the fighters don't even get, real traditional walk-ins. I mean, they do get to come into some music and they come in one at a time, but there's no, big video package. And, maybe they don't get quite as much of a build or what have you. But bottom line is, like, as soon as 2 fighters are walking out of the cage, 2 more are heading back in on the prelims. And I like that, man. It kept the show moving. The other thing that Bellator does that I kind of enjoy, and I wish the UFC would incorporate it a little more. I understand that Bellator is streaming, so that might be one of the reasons they can't. They're streaming the prelims. We'll see how this changes with the zone. But like, if they get their prelims done 30 minutes before the main card starts, they're totally cool with that. And I like it because it basically, like, instead of trying to space out these little tiny intermissions throughout the night, it's basically like you run all your prelims in, you get them done, and then if you have half an hour for a break, you take a break before the main card. And what's wrong with that? Give everybody a chance to get up and, head to the bathroom, refresh their frosty beverages, grab a hot dog, whatever the case may be. I like it. It's kind of cool to have a little break right beforehand.
All right, well, before we look at UFC Lincoln, we know you're a guy who always seems to have interesting things happen to him at the airport. We saw on Twitter you had a bit of a conversation with Dominic. There should be a program, John, called John Morgan's Airport Adventures, and it should be on some kind of triple X-rated channel. And then you should have a program on the normal channel where things like this happen, because I saw that you had a conversation with Dominic Cruz about why TJ Dillashaw doesn't want to fight him. You put that up on Twitter. I just wanted you to sort of expand on that and tell us a little bit for the audience that didn't see your tweet.
Yeah, it was great, man. We we left Sioux Falls and we actually flew into Phoenix, and those guys, Dominic Cruz was with Phil Davis and Eric Del Fiero, and they were on my same flight. They were connecting back to San Diego, of course, to get back to the gym there, and I was connecting to Vegas, and we just had a few minutes between flights, and just kind of shooting the shit a little bit or whatever about different topics, and I was like, Dom, you're looking good, ready to fight? Yeah, okay, I'm good, man, excited to get back. Oh yeah. I was like, hey, what do you think? I was like, it doesn't sound like TJ Dillashaw really wants to fight you at all. It just doesn't. I don't hear him really mention your name. Like, why do you think it is that he doesn't want to fight you? And Dominic basically just looked at me and said, because he's a pussy. Oh, okay, all right. Well, there it is. Easy enough, sir. So, yeah, it was a pretty funny moment, and yeah, I tweeted about it. The tweet definitely kind of took a life of its own. I mean, some people, It's interesting because a lot of people are like, yeah, go get him, Dom, and then other people kind of hated him for it. I mean, I don't know why you'd hate. I like the idea of them running that fight back, man. I really do. You'd think TJ Dillashaw would want to answer the question marks as well, right? But I do understand his right to say, hey, listen, you're not the right guy right now. But I mean, the names out there right now, a Sun Tzu, love a Sun Tzu, but we know that he's never really, been a huge push in the marketing department. Marias is probably somebody that has a case as well, and I know that's one that he wants to see. And but Dom's got to be right there. So I'll be interested to see how everything pans out.
Any guesses who's next for TJ in this one?
I don't, man. I don't. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe Marias, to be honest with you. I think that was the name that was kind of being thrown about beforehand.
But that's
interesting, man.
The Cejudo fight is pretty much off the table, right? Surely you're not going to do that.
I think so. I mean, the only reason I would say maybe not is I do wonder. I mean, here's the thing: is like from a merit perspective, Demetrious Johnson definitely deserves the trilogy fight, right? I mean, for all that he's accomplished, for the length of his run. But does the UFC really want to put themselves right back in that position? I mean, they kind of openly admitted, right, that it's difficult to market the flyweights, that Demetrious didn't really register. That pay-per-view did better than I think most people expected. But, I mean, do you necessarily want to put Demetrious right back in there and put yourself maybe right back in the same position if he beats Cejudo that next time? I don't know. So I do wonder if maybe they'll play around with some possibilities of seeing other things to do. But to me, man, no offense to Cejudo, I get it. Gold medal wrestler, amazing accomplishment to beat Demetrious. But, yeah, I think before you start taking super fights outside your division, you got to do something first. I mean, if TJ wants to come down to 125, I'm all for it. Let's do that. I mean, TJ has kind of earned a right to take some chances and do some different things. I just don't know that Cejudo has done that yet.
And how about that cringy Mario Lopez segment on Extra? I thought that needed a little bit of John Morgan there. Get John Morgan in there straight away. Mario Lopez more maybe Dancing with the Stars or something. Maybe not so much covering fights.
I mean, listen, if you're gonna bring the champs in and you're gonna make it seem like there's some tension going on, maybe you shouldn't be sitting there with a walking boot on. It doesn't really look like are you gonna get in the middle of them if things start going bad? Like, hold on, fellas, come on.
All right, let's look at UFC Lincoln because that's coming up. And it's funny because with less UFC cards sort of happening more recently, it kind of makes people a bit more excited for this card. I feel like people are just excited to have a UFC card happening. I'm interested, John. Mickey Gall, he's found himself in the first fight of the televised prelims against George Sullivan. Do you think he can bounce back from his loss here?
I do, man. I think Mickey Gall has a ton of talent. I'm really surprised he's in this position on the card, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you that because we always do that. We always look at the card and go, why is this guy? Because you'd think in the prelims especially, he's probably one of the better-known guys that they could sort of use as a prelim main event.
I get it. Yeah, man. It's a weird spot because, normally we talk about, hey, when you got that guy in that featured Fight Pass spot, right, you're trying to sell, Fight Pass subscriptions. When you've got him in that featured FS1 broadcast prelim or whatever, okay, you're trying to do something good for your TV partners here. This one shocks me a little bit, so I'm kind of excited to hopefully get on the ground. I leave tonight actually, and maybe ask around a little bit. Did Mickey piss somebody off or whatever? Did he say something wrong or flirt with somebody's girlfriend or what happened, man? It's kind of I found it to be an odd spot. I do think Mickey's the real deal. I think he's got a lot of good days ahead of him, man. I think he's a talented kid that we're going to see plenty out of in the future.
Well, sort of on that same broad subject of like what's ahead as far as people's best days and things like that, we had a pretty honest chat with Jake Ellenberger on the show last week. He's obviously fighting Brian Barberena, but more importantly, surely his spot in the UFC at this point is pretty much on the line, and he assured us that that's just not something that he's concerning himself with. But he's had a rough run, man. Who do you think wins this one?
It's a really tough spot for Jake Ellenberger, man. This fight is it's a tough one for him, man. It really is. I mean, you look at the odds. I think the odds makers have laid it out there. He's a pretty sizable underdog. Jake is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, man, and honest, man. He's been so honest with us along the way about the emotions and the pain that he's had to deal with in this journey and kind of where he's been. Look, if he is on and executing. And with him, I don't think it's necessarily physical. I feel like it's mental sometimes, just like not pulling the trigger, overthinking situations and thoughts where, he isn't necessarily the technically most gifted or savvy guy. It's kind of that brute strength that he used to bring to the table a lot more frequently, I thought. And I think that's what he's got to do if he wants to be successful. Yeah, man, it's I hate to say it, but I mean, a career could be on the line here with Jake Ellenberg. There's no question about it.
And when it's all said and done, I mean, he's had some big wins. He was right up there for a little bit of time. He had a bit of a winning streak. How do you sort of, if he loses this one, how do you sort of look back at a guy like Jake Ellenberg and what he's done?
I mean, listen, I'm always going to think about the great fights and the great moments they brought to the table. And again, I mean, a great guy as well, you know. So, are we talking UFC Hall of Fame or something like that? No, but I mean, he's certainly somebody that mattered over the course of history. There's no question about it. And somebody that had great moments. What's left in the tank, I don't know. You know, this isn't a game for the older folks. And he's not an old guy, but you know, he's put his body through a lot. He's had a lot of fights, man. He's had a lot more fights than some people ever will. So. Listen, he's certainly somebody that mattered in the course of history. There's no question about that.
And just looking at the card, there's a fun fight between Courtney Casey and Angela Hill. Hill's been able to get a win in her last time out. Who do you think wins this one? How do you see this one playing out?
I love this fight, man. I think this is one of those kind of underrated fights that I hope people are paying attention to. I think Courtney Casey's a phenomenal fighter. You know, I had the privilege of watching her fight several times as an amateur out here in Las Vegas, and so I was a fan of hers, seeing her kind of develop through the ranks. Of course, Angela Hill, very skilled as well, both in the cage and on social media as well. She's somebody you definitely need to follow. Courtney Casey, though, man, if you go through her UFC history, I love it. She fights everybody, man. She has never had an easy fight. She always takes on the best opponents available, and I like that about her. And she has had heartbreak over and over and over. You look at the number of split decisions that she's had, controversial otherwise. It's crazy. I think Courtney Casey has what it takes to get it done here. I just hope that, she continues to remain offensive and she continues to go on the attack, because she does tend to let decisions get away from her and be a little bit closer than they need to be. And if she does that, Hill will be very happy to take care of that.
Another fight that's kind of flying under the radar is Andre Fili versus Michael Johnson. Now, Fili is stepping up in competition here against Michael Johnson. Johnson is a tough dude, but he's also found himself fighting killers after killers in the division, which led him to only win one fight from his last 6 fights. His last 3 fights saw him lose to Khabib, Gaethje, and Elkins. How do you sort of see this one going? Because do you think Fili can step up here and sort of keep his win streak alive? Or do you think this is a bit of a break for Johnson from the very elite competition of the division that he's sort of been fighting over the last few fights?
So much of a question mark, right? I mean, when you look at somebody that has losses and then you look at who they're against and you look at the type of quality competition there is against, we have a tendency to kind of write it off and say, well, he lost to Khabib. Like, everybody loses to Khabib. Well, he lost to, it's tough. And it's the easy thing to do. I am so torn on this one. I turned in my staff picks just a little bit ago, and I ended up going with Andre Fili, but I'm reserving right. They don't print until Friday, so I'm telling you, I'm 50-50 on this one, because I think Fili is one of those guys too that, like, some nights you can see it's there and it's clicking and you're like, man, this dude is firing all cylinders. And other times you can see that, maybe he's questioning things a little bit, or he's not quite pulling the trigger and kind of flowing on automatic, So both guys, I think, question marks around him, and I really like this fight a lot. I'm leaning Fili right now, but man, it's a coin toss to me.
It's a tough one. Speaking of tough ones, the main event between Justin Gaethje and James Vick. This is going to be a fun one, man. It's hopefully going to be fireworks, interesting clash of styles. You got Justin Gaethje, who just goes out there and just wrecks people, whether he goes out winning or losing. It's always exciting. James Vick, also a very, very good fighter. He's a little bit more cerebral, likes to keep things on the outside. I guess a little bit more smarter in his approach. Justin Gaethje sort of spoke after his last loss that he needs to change things up. He needs to utilize that wrestling. Do you think he does it in this fight? Do you think there's any chance? Because I kind of get the sense that it's hard for fighters this late in their career to sort of make these major changes and use new tactics in a fight.
I think it is. I mean, listen, the guy, I think it's just part of who he is. I mean, he's always had the wrestling, right? I mean, but his style was always this. If you followed his World Series of Fighting career, I mean, it's not like he just started fighting like this when he got to the UFC. I mean, he had 2 Fight of the Years in World Series of Fighting as well. I mean, just incredible wars, and that became his calling card. And I think he enjoys it. You know what I mean? I really think he enjoys it. And I think it's just who he is. I mean, he always said, listen, I know I'm not going to fight for very long, so I got to come in here and I got to make the biggest checks, the most exciting fights, and nail as many bonuses as I can. And I think that's just who he is as a fighter. The other thing, too, is shooting it on James Vick might not be the smartest thing either, because James Vick does have some decent wrestling and submission abilities as well. So that might be more of a tougher task than he thinks. I think this is going to be a fun fight, man. The verbal buildup has been kind of hilarious between the two. I mean, James Vick, my fellow Texan with the country accent out there, throwing the trash talk down. It's fun to watch. I think this is going to be a war. I do think that the Gaethje will probably try to use a little bit more wrestling, but I just think who he is who he is. I don't think we're going to see him, jab, jab, double leg, jab, jab, double leg over and over. I just don't think it's in him to do that.
If you had to lean to one person, I know you just submitted your staff picks. Who was the official name before the print goes out tomorrow?
I'm going with Vick. I'm going with Vick here. I feel like he is the hot hand. I do feel like Gaethje is the wars are starting to add up, man. I think we always knew that he couldn't keep fighting this way forever. I think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's going to be a bloody fight, one that we enjoy watching, but I'm leaning towards James Vick.
So I guess here's the question. If James Vick does win, where does that put him in the division? It's pretty top heavy at the moment. There's a little bit of a queue, a little bit of a logjam, and he's sort of had issues in the past with opponents allegedly taking fights against him. You would think that a main event like this would help him out, build his name. Do you think the UFC would run with him if he does beat Justin Gaethje?
I think so. I mean, I think that he is becoming more marketable. He's definitely starting to speak out a little bit more. He's getting a lot more attention. I think people are learning more about him as a fighter. I think he is somebody that belongs in the upper echelon of that division. This would be a huge spot for him. But as you said, it is top heavy right now. There are big fights going on right now, and I don't think they're going to mess with that kind of run of guys that's up there at the top. But I think it will get him, kind of a top 5 fight, and I think that's what he wants. I don't. Speaking of James Vick and watching him develop through his career, I don't think he's ever felt like he needed to take a shortcut anywhere. I think he feels like, listen, I can beat everybody in this division, and I will beat everybody in that division. And so I can appreciate that. He just wants to make sure that he's always in an upward trajectory. Obviously you've got the huge title fight coming up in October. Tony Ferguson lurking out there as well. He should have been in there. So, there's a couple guys ahead of him. So I don't think we're talking about, hey, he wins this fight, he's getting a title shot. But he wins this fight, and he's going to be up there in the discussion of a number one contender fight, no question.
It's interesting because you, me, Casper, a lot of the MMA media, we've known about James for a while, but I feel like fans have kind of forgotten about him a little bit. The UFC haven't really pushed him much. Do you think if he beats a guy like Gaethje, he finally gets a bit of that rub that gets him sort of to the next echelon when it comes to, I suppose, his star power and fans sort of recognizing him and him being in more demand?
I think so, because as you said, I mean, the hardcores like us have been following his career, but I think you're absolutely right. I think this guy's been incredibly under the radar, and part of it was his own doing. I mean, right out of the gate, he had some injury issues, so it was kind of a slow start to begin with, and then, he was kind of one of those guys that didn't really talk a lot, and not that you just have to talk. I mean, it's not that everybody's got to go out there and be Conor McGregor, but you do have to say something. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a trash talker. But I do think you have to speak, and people have to see your personality. That's this game, man. Like it or not, it is sports, but it's sporting entertainment, and it is about personalities too. It's about people going, like, oh, that guy's from where I'm from. I'm gonna support him. Or that guy, I like the way he said this or the way he did that. I mean, that's just the reality of how people, tune in and pick people that they like to follow and that sort of thing. But I think people are starting to be aware of what James Vick is capable of as a fighter, and I do think this would be a huge. I mean, This is kind of a breakout moment the way I see it.
It's going to be a great weekend of fights. We're very excited. John, thank you so much for jumping on the program. Guys, make sure to follow John Morgan on Twitter at MMA Junkie John. You never know who he's going to run into at an airport or a diner or anywhere where fighters lurk and get some sneaky exclusives. So we always appreciate that. And of course, check out the MMA Roadshow where John Morgan and Cold Coffee take you inside and backstage. And again, there's always fighters stopping by and making appearances. So it's a phenomenal podcast that you should be listening to if you're not. And we can't wait to check it out, man. Thank you so much for jumping on the program.
Always a pleasure, guys.
And there you guys go. John Morgan. Cass, I really think this guy should have an airport program. If anybody should have a show, John Morgan's Airport Discoveries.
John Morgan's Airport Adventures. What do you think about that?
I love it. And he goes to different airports and shows you the different bars in the different airports. And then he just talks to people traveling, has frosty beverages with them, and runs into Dominic Cruz and other people. Prospective fighters. See, that should be Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. Before the fighters fight, rather than showing a package of them training, they should find John Morgan in an airport and tell them they'll one day be in the UFC.
I feel like
they just play that.
Yeah, and he'd get them at their realist, you know? Like, they lost their baggage, they're writing a complaint form, they're like, my fucking fight shorts are lost, and John Morgan's just like asking questions. I feel like he's so smooth, he could smooth over that situation and get a good interview out of him.
Yeah, he took us to a bar once. There were dildos hanging from the ceiling. It was good. We had a good time. I took some photos.
No context to that story whatsoever. It was in Sydney. Apparently, I think Sean Shelby recommended it or something. And John's like, I know a bar around here. We went. It was like down a bunch of flights of stairs. And then we're like, honestly, it was a fucking cool ass bar. Good crowd, good people, everything. You had a beer called a shit tinny. I remember when you ordered that, I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then we're hanging out, we're chilling, we're talking shit, sinking those frosty beverages, and then I realized, it dawned on me, there are dildos hanging from the ceiling and on the walls. It was interesting.
It was fantastic. I've been there many times since. Met a lot of interesting people there. But guys, with that is the end of Submission Radio for this week. A big thanks to our guest. And a big thanks to you for tuning in. Now that you're done digesting the episode, jump on the comment section below and let us know what you think about what all the guests said, what you think about the big fights this weekend, what you think about me and Casper in this Power Rangers t-shirt, which we picked up in Anaheim or LA. We went to like a Walmart and we bought a bunch of ridiculous t-shirts. And it was fun. And there's a couple more t-shirts that maybe we'll wear in the future from there. So look out for that. Let us know your thoughts on all that. And also, how's your life going? Message us as well. We love hearing about people's lives. We're like the Dr. Phils of MMA, Cass.
Pretty much. We're like moonlighting. You know, during the day, we're recording the show, chatting to fighters, and at night, coaching you guys through life and just, you know, we're the shoulder for you guys to cry on or just chat to or whatever. Let us know.
That's right. Quietly sobbing in the corner in between programs. That's us. Don't forget to check out the Submission Radio Technique of the Week. It's Tyson Pedro this week, and some exciting techniques coming out in the future. And you can actually go and check out the backlog of those techniques if you haven't. Okay, look, put it like this. Do you have training tonight? I'm talking to you sitting there listening to the program. Do you have training tonight? Yes. Boxing or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Doesn't matter. Go on the techniques and check out. I reckon you'll be able to pick up at least one or two sneaky techniques. You'll be able to get your good friend, close training partner, but also Patsy tonight in the gym. Nothing better than a sneaky armbar or a Kimura that no one knows how to do, Cass, and no one gets explained to, so they don't know how to get out of it. It's great.
That's right. He may be your friend and your training partner, but after watching these techniques, nothing's going to stop you from beating him within an inch of his life. It's just the way it works.
Oh, God. So many great people in the techniques as well. Guys like Sam Greco, people like Robert Whitaker,
John Wayne Parr.
John Wayne Parr. Oh, man, so much gold. I look back on it, and I think back to when I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And look, it wasn't like Rich Franklin where I had to find VHS tapes, but I wish there was sort of one place where I could go to try and learn as much as I could. And they weren't Robert Whitaker. There were some other people. I didn't know. Sometimes I didn't know, Cass. Sometimes I try and learn techniques only to find out they weren't actually real techniques and things that people came up with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, only one thing.
It was like the touch of death in The Simpsons.
A lot of touch of deaths. A lot of touch of death, Sam. Now I'm crippled and I can't walk. But that's a story for another episode. Guys, a big thank you for checking out the show today. We will be back next week with another episode of Submission Radio. We have some fun announcements coming up in the future, but we won't spoil them just yet. Subscribe, comment below, and we'll catch you guys next week.